Hi guys, this is Miss Martin. Today we're going to talk about something that I bet you think you already know, but I also suspect it's more complicated than you think. We're going to ask the question, what is art? And you've all made art. You all have recognized art when you see it. If you look on the wall behind me, I think we would all say that's a piece of art. It's in a frame, it hangs on a wall, people admire it and enjoy it. Definitely art. But it isn't always that simple. We're going to look through a lot of things, and I want you to start by thinking about what you believe is the definition of art. What is art? And then we're going to talk about what is and isn't art, and we'll come up with a little better definition of what it means to be art by the end of this video.
So right now I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to say out loud to the computer what your definition of art is. And I can't hear what you're saying, but I'm sure some of you are saying art is creative, art is beautiful, art is on walls, art is in museums.
Now that you have your own idea what art is, we're going to look through some things that art is and some things that art is not. I'm not going to give you a definition yet. We'll do that at the end. So looking at these pictures, I'm sure you'll see the Mona Lisa. Hopefully you recognize her. And you definitely know that she is art created by Leonardo da Vinci. She hangs in a museum in a pretty frame and lots of people go to see her. You also know that things like a sign at your gas station is not art. So some things seem pretty obvious. Some things are harder. This is Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. And on each of these, I'm going to ask you the basic question, is this art? So, is this art? Yes, this is definitely art. Hangs in a museum. By a famous artist, pretty frame, it's art. But what about this? This paintbrush, is this art? So this is a tool that is used to make art. So it's useful, but it isn't art. It isn't any expression of creativity. It's just a tool that helps us make art. What about this one? This is a picture of a mushroom that I happened to draw on January 1st. I made the New Year's resolution to draw a mushroom at least once a week for the year. So is my drawing of a mushroom art? I'm not a famous artist. This will never be in a museum. Is it art anyway? I believe it's art. It definitely is an expression of human creativity, and it is made for decorative purposes, not to be anything useful. So I would say that one is art. What about this? This is a beautiful new Elmer's glue. Do you think that's art? Or do you think that's just a tool to make art? Again, the glue is a tool to make art. It's not art on its own. Ooh, here is something beautiful. This is amethyst crystals, part of a broken geode. Now, a lot of you probably said beautiful things are art, and this is beautiful, so is this art? So if you said this is art because it's beautiful, that's not quite right. Not every beautiful thing is art. This is part of nature. Nature can be beautiful, but it wasn't made by human creativity, so it's not art. Here's an interesting picture. This is a portrait of someone named Jacqueline by Pablo Picasso. Now, most people wouldn't say that this is necessarily beautiful. So the question here is this art? Does art have to be beautiful? And art does not have to be beautiful. This is definitely art. Here is something beautiful. This is a seashell. So is a seashell art? What do you think? Seashells are found, they're part of nature, and no matter how beautiful they aren't art. They could be used to make art in certain situations, but just on their own, they are not art. What about these nice smooth river rocks? They're very pretty. Are they art or are they nature? This again is part of nature. Now look what happened to these rocks. A man named James Brunt has arranged them, choosing big ones on the outside, little ones in the middle, and in beautiful circles. Is that going to be art? So we have nature, and then we've added human creativity, and the rocks did become art in this situation. Not all on their own, but because of the human creativity applied to the way they were arranged. So this is art. What about a box of Crayolas? Are they art? What do you think? Hopefully you remembered that crayons are going to be a tool. They're not the art. They're a tool used to make art. So what about this? Here we have an album cover for the Beatles' Yellow Submarine. This is something that was drawn by Heinz Eldman, and it's a picture of the Beatles and the Yellow Submarine and a lot of imaginative features. This was not made to go in a museum or hang in a frame, but is this art? I would definitely say this is art and that it was made for creative purposes to entertain people and make them think and make them look and wonder. So I would call this art. Here we have a picture of 3 blue rockets flying through space by young Adrienne, who's one of our first graders this year. Is this art? Adrienne is young. She's not a famous artist who has work hanging in museums, but you don't have to be a famous artist to make art. You can be a young artist like Miss Adrienne and make art just fine. So this is art. All of you make art and you know that. So here we have a photograph of a flower. Do you think a flower is art? Remember that art is made by people. Flowers grow on their own and they're part of nature. So the flower itself isn't art. If I drew a picture of a flower, that might be art. Or even if I was a person taking a photograph of a flower, that photograph could be art. But on its own, a flower is a part of nature and it is not art. Here we have a picture of Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean is an advertisement. You'll see him on magic erasers and other products that are used for cleaning. The Mr. Clean man was drawn by a Muskogee artist named Mike Wimmer, who does a lot of commercial illustrations. So do you think that art that's made to be a part of an advertisement is art? Does that count as art to you? Not everyone agrees on this. My opinion is that this is art. I think his illustrations are really well done and definitely count as art. Now we're going to get into some sculptures. Sculptures are things that are kind of three-dimensional. They're not flat like paper. And this is a sculpture called Pyramid that was built in New Zealand according to some instructions by artist Saul Lewitt. And it's made out of concrete blocks. And it's something very unusual. Do you think that's art? It's not a part of nature. It's made by a person. It definitely shows some creativity. I would say that this is art. And here you can see that some of the local livestock likes climbing on his sculpture. So some people said that art is beautiful and colorful. And here we see some cubes kind of stacked around. They're pretty simple. Do you think this counts as art? Created by humans for the purpose of entertaining and making people think, and they're definitely imaginative, so these will qualify as art. What about this? This is a stack of construction paper. Is that art? Nope, that's just a tool. I bet you got that one right. Now think about this one. Here's the Kool-Aid man and a little drawing on Kool-Aid being sold at the supermarket. The Kool-Aid man was originally created by a man named Marvin Potts. Do you think that is art? It might not be fine art like you find in a museum, but that is definitely going to be some art. And if you start looking, you're going to find art all around you. Now here's a fellow painting his wall. If you paint a wall, is that art? No, not everything that is painted is art. A plainly painted wall is not art. Here's our last one. This is Mickey Mouse by Walt Disney. Do you think Mickey Mouse is art? The picture of Mickey Mouse is art, and that is a character created by Disney that has been drawn by lots of people. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of what art is, but it may just confuse you more. But the things that are important to remember here are that art is made by people, not things that are just found in nature, not things that are tools, even if they're tools to make art. Remember that everything that is painted isn't art. If you just paint a wall or paint a car, that's not going to be art. Art has to express creativity and imagination. Art can be beautiful, art can be colorful, but it doesn't have to. And art can make us think or feel. That's one of the important purposes of art. So art is that expression of human creativity, and it's often visual, like art, visual arts and sculpture and paintings, but it can also be things like dance and drama and literature. And most art will ask us to think or make us feel an emotion about what's happening in the picture. There is a lot of discussion about the nature of art, and it's not all got a complete answer. Have a great week, guys, and hopefully next week we'll get to actually come back to school.